This is the Scirocco Mark II. It was practical, affordable, light on its feet, and yet it looked like a proper 80s coupe. It was cooler than a Golf GTI, handled just as well, and yet today it's largely forgotten. We're going to find out why and if it deserves a second chance. Like the Mark I before it, the Mark II Scirocco was built on the original Golf platform, with production handled by Carman. But while the two cars shed a lot underneath the skin, the Mark II represented a big step forward in terms of practicality, refinement, and aerodynamics. It was bigger inside, it had a larger boot, and it slipped through the air more efficiently. For me, the crisp, clean Giugiaro lines of the Mark I are probably the purer design. But the Mark II, which was designed in-house with its flared arches, its rear spoiler, and its broader stance, was more muscular, perfect for the 80s. Despite the changes, it was still light at just over 900 kilos, and that was crucial. Suspension at the front was by McPherson struts, with the semi-trailing arms at the rear. The result? This kept the same taut, agile handling as the Mark I, but wrapped it up in a more useful package. More space, more practicality, and crucially still, VW reliability. Just look at it in here. With the seats down, I can fit in perfectly, no matter the fact that there's a lovely 80s style massive subwoofer here. The solid build and reliability in particular was something that its rivals, like the Renault Fuego and the Alfa Sud Sprint, couldn't really match. By the way, if you have a Fuego, do please get in touch with me, because I've been wanting to do a video on one of those for ages. It was made from 1981 till 1992, and Volkswagen offered what can only be described as a bewildering range of trims and special editions during that time. At the top of the pile were the GTX and GTI models, with fuel-injected 1.8 producing 112 horsepower. And for the real enthusiasts, there was also a 16-valve version. But those are very rare, particularly here in the UK. This one is a GT2. That means that it got the same chassis and interior as the GTI, but under the bonnet is a carb-fed 1.8 with 95 horsepower. Now, that may not sound like much today, but you've got to take into account that it's so light that that will be enough to have fun. Around 300,000 Mark IIs were built, which is quite respectable, but its following never quite reached the dizzy heights of the Golf GTI. And that's good news, because it means that they're relatively more affordable in comparison. Later on in the video, we'll have a look at what's on the market right now and how much they're going for. Now, I'm sure you'll agree with me that it looks great, but I want to find out what it's like to drive in comparison to a Golf, and also see if it's good enough to tempt me away from the more fragile Alfa. Now, there's something about getting VWs of this era. There's an interior smell which is unique. It's different to the Italian cars, British cars. I'd say there's a sort of sweetness to it, but if you sat in here, you would know straight away what I'm talking about. Sounds good. Now, this particular car has a couple of very light mods. So it's got a K&N filter, it's got a different back box, so it's slightly easier sort of breathing. And it sounds a little bit fruitier. The way it drives, even at these slower speeds, there's something which is unmistakably VW of the 80s, and I think it's the solidity of all the controls, the way that the weights are done. So for example, the gear change, it's long, it's quite clunky, and yet quite light. The steering wheel, it's just solid here. Everything is solid. There's the odd little rattle, but it's nothing, you know, compared to what you'd get, say, in an Italian car of this time. The seats as well. These are lovely seats, and they're firm. So the whole experience that you get from being in here is just of a solidity that most of the competitors couldn't match. Now, Sciroccos maybe aren't as popular as their Golf brethren, but the people who like them do it with a sort of a fanatic zeal, which is quite something to see. Now, you see, for example, there was the video that Jason Camisa did with Jay Leno, where he talks about it, and he's been through a lot of cars, and his favorite car is his Scirocco 16 valve. Similarly, my own friend Mike Drew, who helps me a lot with my Pantera, he is Mr. Pantera, and he has 4 Mark I's. So There must be something about these that maybe I've missed in the past, and we'll see today. Now, it's very much like a Golf in here, but it's a bit of a mishmash, I think, of Mark 1 and Mark 2. The switchgear is Mark 1. The Mark 2's was a little bit chunkier, Austin was telling me, but I'm pretty sure that the dials themselves were from the Mark 2. Now, it's quite odd, the crossover, because the Scirocco, the Mark 1 Scirocco, actually came out before the Golf. So the Golf chassis itself didn't debut in the Golf, as most people think. It was in the Scirocco. And this, although it came out in 81, I think the Mark 2 came out in 82, it continued for another 10 years with the Mark 1 chassis. Something I do find a bit odd is the seating position. Now, because it's lower than a Golf, because there's less space inside, although it's actually a bit longer because of the sloping roofline, the seat for people to fit, I'm 6'1" and I've got about 10mm up there to spare. The seat is really angled back. Your bum is right back, your legs go up. It can be adjusted, of course, it can be raised, but if you raise it, then if you're tall like me, you wouldn't fit. So you're kind of stuck with this, which is, it's a bit odd. I'm adjusting the backrest and it's helping a bit. But there's a real stretch to the wheel. I'll check in a second and see if it's adjustable. I'm not sure if it is. Before we go through the gears, can I find anything? No, I don't think it is adjustable, so you're kind of stuck with it. Right, maybe bring the seat forward a touch. Yeah, that's better. Have to wring every ounce of power out of it. It's great fun because it goes up to about 6'1", 6'2" on the scale, and it just, you know, it's very linear, but to get all the power out, you just have to wring its neck, which is brilliant fun because you're hardly breaking any limits either. The suspension feels a little bit jittery, and I have to say this car apparently has different springs, although I think they're OE type springs because the ride height doesn't look like it's been lowered. In any case, the handling is great. The steering is very light, makes it feel quite pointy. Nice bit of feel coming through. With the engine, every now and again I'm getting, I don't know if it's a misfire or a stumble when I sort of floor it too suddenly sometimes, but then as soon as it's picked up, it just goes. I don't know why it's doing that, but it does feel good. There's just that very slight little stumble. Now, I don't know if it's just wishful thinking, but for me, the weight on this is carried a little bit lower down. So in theory, it should be better handling than the Golf, right? Well, we're going to find out when we get to the tighter bends up ahead. Some say that for the design, this is actually quite similar to a DeLorean. I can see where they're coming from because from the side in particular, it's got the same profile, but I don't know, what do you think? Is it true? Is it a little mini DeLorean? Now here are the tighter bends. Let's see how it does here. One thing which is truly frightening is the brakes. They're awful. Tell you more about that in a moment. First, second gear. It's really quite composed. And just wring every ounce, every rev of performance out of it. It's brilliant fun. The steering's pretty light, so it makes it feel really agile. And I think maybe the one thing I would say is there's maybe a little bit of vagueness to the steering. That's the only criticism I could give. But Austin, who owns it, says it's serviced, up to date, and he wrings its neck. So he really encouraged me to do it. So let's just take it through the gears again. What a brilliant little car. I'm trying to think how to place it compared to the Alfa Sud Sprint. Now that is a car that You know, I got in, I did the review, and probably what shocked me most was when I got back into a normal car, and it was a decent car, I can't remember what it was, but it made me understand just how tactile that little Alpha is. Now, if you're talking about it in terms of pure handling and the feedback that it gives you, then this doesn't quite match it. I think taken in isolation, this is a brilliant little coupe, and it's a much easier car to own. It's more pleasant to own in many ways. The interior is much nicer, it feels more solid, it's going to be more reliable. But yeah, on the limit handling and the way that little Alpha goes, this has to take a second place too. But it's not a criticism as such, because I don't think there's much out there that could touch the Sprint. If you wanted to get yourself a little coupe from the 80s, I really can't think of much that would be better than this. Do you have any other ideas? The Fuego I haven't driven yet, so I can't compare, but I think it was a bigger looking car than this. It's sort of a 924 copy, really. This has so much going for it, and in terms of pricing as well, that is just amazing. Now, Austin had an incredible deal with this car. I think all in all, including the wheels, which he upgraded to these ATFs, I think they're called, altogether, this car owes him £2,200. I mean, I can't believe that, and he hasn't had it for years. It's not like he bought it 20 years ago, he bought it recently. And he had a bit of luck because it was smoking quite badly, it wasn't running properly, and he was able to get it at a great price. And it's a lovely thing. The interior looks great. It's got just over 100,000 miles on it. These VW products, yeah, they're ace. I think on a lot of cars, they can crack around the dash. Maybe this hasn't been in the sun so much, so it's weathered really well. But if you're gonna buy, say, a Golf GTI of this time, I mean, you're looking at 20 grand, maybe more. These, you can find at £5,000. So it's so much car for the money. They have been creeping up in values recently, so if you're thinking of buying one, then I would say do it now. There's a few that I had a look online, Mk2s, and they seem to be on for sort of £5,000 to £10,000. I think that's what you're looking at. So it's a brilliant little coupe, and it's affordable. Now, don't take what I said about the Alfa Sud Sprint as something detrimental towards this. It really isn't meant to be. It's just that in terms of pure visceral feel, I don't think I've come across many other cars that can beat it. This is brilliant as it is. If you want to see a little bit more about that Alpha, then check out the video here. Massive thanks to Austin, who came down today, and thanks to all of you for watching.